I found my wife cheating with my brother. I divorced her and cut off my entire family. I thought the worst was behind me, until I got 100 missed calls in one night. When I finally picked up, the voice on the other end said something that stopped me cold. Chapter 1: The Shattered Frame on the Mantle. There are moments in life when the world shifts, not with a bang, but with a crack. For me, it started with a picture frame. It was a Saturday afternoon, late spring, the kind of warm, breezy day that makes even the most painful things feel survivable. I was standing in the living room of my own house, or what used to feel like mine, sipping a glass of iced tea, watching my wife set out deviled eggs for the family barbecue. On the mantel above the fireplace sat a framed photo. Me, my wife, and my younger brother, Caleb. Taken last 4th of July. We were all smiling. The kind of smile that's meant for Facebook, not real life. But something in the photo made my stomach shift. I leaned in. Her hand. My wife's hand. In the photo, it was resting not on my shoulder, but just behind Caleb's back. Almost touching. Almost intimate. I'd never noticed it before, but now, it glared at me like a neon sign. "Han." She called from the kitchen, breaking the moment. "Can you check the burgers on the grill?" I set the frame back down. Maybe a little too hard. The glass cracked. Just a hairline split. Barely visible, unless you knew where to look. Like the one running through my marriage. Outside, laughter echoed. My daughter ran through the yard, chasing Bubbles with her cousins. Caleb was by the grill already, flipping burgers like he owned the place. Always the golden boy. Charming, easygoing, never without a beer in hand or a story to tell. "Yo, big bro," he grinned, tossing me a pair of tongs. "You're burning the patties." I gave a tight smile. "You always this helpful, or just when I'm about to do your job?" He laughed. But I watched the way his eyes flicked toward the kitchen window. Where my wife stood. Watching him. Not me. Later that night, after everyone had left and the yard was littered with paper plates and half-empty beer cans, I stood alone in the living room. I picked up the frame again. The crack in the glass seemed longer now, or maybe I was just finally willing to see it. I turned it over and opened the back. A small slip of paper fluttered out. A note, scribbled in my wife's handwriting. "Tell him soon. I can't keep doing this." My fingers went cold. That night, I didn't confront her. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just sat on the edge of our bed watching her sleep, wondering how long I'd been the fool in my own home. And as the moonlight hit the broken frame on the nightstand, I realized something with perfect clarity. The betrayal had already happened. But the revenge. That was still coming. Chapter 2. He was always the favorite son. My brother, Caleb, was born with a smile that got him everything. When we were kids, if I got an A, my parents nodded. If Caleb got a B+, there were fireworks. I was the one who helped Dad build the shed out back, painted the fence, shoveled the driveway in winter. Caleb. He showed up with a basketball and charm, and somehow still got all the praise. "He's just got a natural way with people," my mother used to say. As if character was something you could win with a smirk and a six-pack. I took the long road. While Caleb drifted from one odd job to another, I built my life brick by brick. I went to trade school, became a licensed HVAC technician, worked long hours, saved every dime. I met Anna, my soon-to-be wife, at a church cookout in Tallahassee. She loved that I was steady, dependable. We bought a modest home, and when our daughter Emily was born, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. A life of my own. One I earned. But even then, Caleb hovered like a storm cloud. After my folks passed, he came around more often. Always just when things were going well. He'd show up with some new hustle, a girlfriend half his age, and stories that sounded exciting on the surface but were full of missing pieces underneath. And Anna. She always smiled a little too long at his jokes. The slippery shift. It wasn't one moment that tipped the balance. It was dozens of small ones. Like the way he'd hug Anna just a little too long at family dinners. The way she'd put on makeup before he arrived. Even if we were just having ribs and potato salad in the backyard. I told myself I was being paranoid. Insecure. Overthinking. But when your gut whispers long enough, eventually, you listen. The last Thanksgiving. It was the year before the divorce. Caleb had lost his job, again, and asked if he could crash with us for just a couple weeks. He brought his duffel bag, his charm, and, slowly, my family under his spell. I remember waking up one night at 2 a.m. to get water. The hallway was dark. As I passed the living room, I saw them, Caleb and Anna, sitting on the couch, just a little too close. Her head was tilted toward him, her eyes soft. His hand brushed her knee. When they saw me, they sprang apart like guilty kids. She stammered something about talking about his future. He grinned like it was a joke. But it wasn't. I slept in the guest room that night. A growing distance. Anna started arguments over nothing. I was too boring, too tired, too predictable. Caleb, meanwhile, was fun, spontaneous, just trying his best. I tried to keep things together for Emily's sake. She was only 11. But I could feel the walls closing in. Like a man watching his house slowly fill with smoke, but no one else smelled a thing. And then, just like that, it all came crashing down. Divorce papers. No warning. No counseling. She served them to me on a Tuesday night. Caleb was the one who handed me the envelope. He didn't even look guilty. And that's when I cut them off. I signed the papers. No contest. Took what little I had, kissed my daughter goodbye, and walked away. From Anna. From Caleb. From every so-called family member who stood by and did nothing. I left the state. Moved to Georgia. Started fresh. Bought a small fixer-upper with the insurance money my parents had left me. Swore I'd never look back. Until now. Because the phone was ringing again. And this time, the past wasn't knocking politely. It was kicking down the damn door. Chapter 3. The night of 100 missed calls. I was sipping a cup of decaf, watching an old western on TV. Quiet night. Crickets outside. I hadn't thought about Caleb or Anna in months. Then the first call came in. Blocked number. I let it ring out. Then came another. And another. By the time I checked my phone, it had blown up like a fire alarm in a church. 12 missed calls from my ex-wife. 9 from my daughter, who hadn't spoken to me in nearly a year. Dozens more from numbers I didn't recognize. At first I thought someone had died. But if it was a death, they wouldn't all be calling me. The men they cut out. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The message that changed everything. Then I saw it. A voicemail from Emily. Her voice was shaking. Dad, I don't know what happened. Please call me back. Mom's losing it. Caleb's been arrested. She said it's your fault. She said he knew. Oh God, Dad. Were you there when it happened? I stood there, phone in hand, heart pounding like a jackhammer in my chest. I hadn't spoken to my daughter since Anna poisoned her against me. I hadn't laid eyes on Caleb since I found them together. And now they were unraveling. Together. The call I finally took. When the 101st call came through, I answered. It wasn't Anna. It wasn't Emily. It was Sheriff Wayne Hartman from back home. A no-nonsense man who once hauled Caleb in for borrowing a neighbor's car in high school. I hadn't heard his voice in 15 years. Mr. Davis, he said slowly. You're still listed as next of kin on Caleb's emergency contact. I thought you should know. He's in county lockup. Domestic violence. Obstruction. Fraud. Whole stack of charges. Fraud. I repeated. Yep, he said. Looks like someone tipped off the feds. IRS, too. We don't have the full scope yet, but the timing was interesting. There was a pause. Your ex-wife's been crying to anyone who'll listen. Says it's your fault. Says you set him up. I didn't respond. Because I didn't need to. The quiet setup. You see, I didn't destroy Caleb and Anna. They destroyed themselves. All I did was leave. And wait. I knew Caleb. He wasn't built to settle down. He wasn't built for loyalty. He was a user. A drifter. With a smirk. I'd been quietly collecting every breadcrumb since the divorce. Emails. Venmo transactions. Business scams. Caleb had started using Anna's name. I hadn't tipped off the authorities. But I knew who would. And the man I sold my HVAC business to, a quiet veteran named Mike Dawson, had been burned by Caleb in a construction deal years ago. It didn't take much for me to share a few files. Just a quiet chat. No fingerprints. Karma came with handcuffs. I didn't gloat. I didn't post anything. I didn't respond to Anna's screaming voicemails or Emily's panicked texts. I just went outside, sat on my porch swing, looked up at the stars. It was a warm Georgia night. Peaceful. The kind of night you savor because you earned it. Chapter 4. The hospital room and the hollow truth. The hallways of St. Luke's smelled like bleach and old silence. I hadn't stepped into this building since my own mother's stroke years ago. I never expected to return here because of them. And yet, the call that night had been urgent. Desperate. Terrified. Room 204. I pushed the door open slowly, unsure what I'd find. There she was. My ex-wife. Lisa. Pale. Frail. Her hair a mess. Tubes running into her arm. Her eyes snapped toward me the second I stepped inside, as if she'd been waiting for hours. Next to her sat my brother. Mark. He didn't stand. Didn't speak. Just dropped his head like a dog who knew it had bitten the wrong hand. Why am I here? I asked, voice flat. Lisa's lips trembled. It's our daughter. She collapsed. The doctors think it might be genetic. Her eyes searched mine, pleading now. We need you for testing. You're the only one who. I froze. Our daughter. I stepped forward slowly, eyes burning into hers. You told me she wasn't mine. Remember? When I walked out that day, you screamed it in front of the entire family, that she was Mark's. Lisa's face went ghost white. Even Mark finally lifted his eyes. Regret washed over him like a flood. I lied, Lisa whispered. We both lied. She reached toward me, trembling. She's yours, Jack. A silence stretched, heavy and raw. Outside, I heard the steady beep of machines and the distant murmur of nurses. Inside, my entire reality was turning itself inside out. For 2 years, I had lived thinking I'd been betrayed by both my wife and my own blood, only to find out my daughter, my own flesh and blood, had been taken from me by their lie. I want to see her, I said quietly. Lisa nodded, eyes wet. She's in ICU. I turned and walked toward the door, then paused. You know, I said without looking back, you didn't just break my heart. You stole years of her life from me. Neither of them responded, because what could they say? They knew the truth now, and the guilt was just beginning. Final Chapter 5. The truth she'll never escape. 3 hours later, I stood outside the ICU. A nurse led me in quietly. My daughter lay there, unconscious, her small chest rising and falling under a web of wires and beeping machines. Her hair was pulled back, her skin pale. But she was still my little girl. The same one who used to sit on my shoulders and call me her giant. The same one I hadn't seen in over 2 years, because of a lie. I sat by her bed and took her hand. It was cold. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat, remembering. All the birthdays I missed. The bedtime stories that went silent. The scraped knees I never got to patch. Not because I didn't want to, but because they told me she wasn't mine. That I had no right. And now they needed me. A blood match. A genetic key. A father they'd thrown away. The courtroom echo. 2 weeks passed. She pulled through, doctors confirmed it. I was her biological father. The match had helped stabilize her in time, and saved her life. Mark and Lisa wanted to talk again, this time through lawyers. They wanted to reintroduce me into her life, now that I was useful. I declined their calls. Instead, I filed for full custody. And when we walked into that courtroom, me calm, them frantic, the judge reviewed the results, heard the timeline of lies, and looked at me with something I hadn't felt in years. Respect. Lisa sobbed, begging the judge not to take her daughter. Mark sat silent, ashamed. The judge didn't say much, just signed the order, and looked at Lisa with cold clarity. You stole this man's family. He's here to rebuild it. You're lucky he's not suing you for fraud. A quiet homecoming. I took my daughter home that day. She was still recovering, but she clung to me like a child trying to reattach a broken branch. I didn't push her, I just held her. Read her the stories I missed, made her grilled cheese the way she remembered, and told her every night, I never stopped loving you. Even when I wasn't allowed to show it. The lesson, and the line that stayed with her. One day, weeks later, Lisa came to the door. She didn't ask for anything, just stood there, hollow. I ruined everything, she whispered. Can you ever forgive me? I looked at her for a long moment, then gently closed the door, not out of hate, but because some doors, once broken, aren't meant to open again. Epilogue. The frame repaired. Months later, my daughter found the old photo. The one from the mantel. The one that had shattered when I left. We taped the frame back together and put it on her nightstand. She asked why I never threw it out. I smiled. Because broken things can be mended. But you have to want to fix them. Moral of the story. Betrayal can fracture families. Lies can steal years. But sometimes, truth comes back stronger. And so do fathers. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice, and share this story with someone who needs its fire.